What is up, everybody? It's your boy Brian here. Want to do a quick video because EA decided to put out an announcement today. I guess they wanted to generate some good press for themselves while everybody is still talking about the Activision Blizzard acquisition by Microsoft. So they basically announced that Respawn is going to be publishing their next few Star Wars games. Now, if you know, EA had the exclusivity license, but that is now expired, and we are going to start getting Star Wars games from other publishers and developers. So much so that Lucasfilm Games was started over at Disney so that they could be the stewards of giving out the license and greenlighting projects that would fit for the Star Wars franchise. So the headline is upcoming titles include, the next game in the Star Wars Jedi franchise. Just to touch on this a little bit, I find the wording here a little interesting. Star Wars Jedi franchise, and not saying the next game in the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order series or franchise. They're saying Jedi franchise, which I want to look as a positive that it may not just be narrowly focused on the story they told in Fallen Order, where we follow Cal Kestis. Now, I think we're likely just going to get a sequel to that, but going forward, if these games um, still sell well and perform well and are received well, then we might get other Jedi games where we will see stories about Jedi from other times. And I think that would be great to get a single player story of a Jedi from the Old Republic, from the High Republic, from the Clone Wars. Maybe you do something post original trilogy um to help fill in the massive content void that is after the original trilogy. To set up the sequel trilogy regardless of how you feel about those movies. So I think that's good. A new Star Wars FPS from Peter Hirschman. Okay. If you know anything about Respawn, they are the developers of Apex Legends and Titanfall. Now, while Apex Legends is not my cup of tea because I'm not a big fan of battle royales, I mostly just play PUBG or Warzone for those. Apex Legends obviously is not as good for solo players like myself. Um, but Titanfall 2 was a very good FPS game. Um, the problem with Titanfall was that EA never gave it the time of day it gave Battlefield. In fact, Titanfall 2 was published. It was published between Call of Duty and Battlefield 1, I believe. How are you going to put this game between the two biggest launches of the year of Call of Duty and your own Battlefield? You never gave Titanfall 2 its chance to be in the forefront, and so it never really took off. But I did play the Titanfall games, I was a big fan of them. The gameplay was fantastic, the mechanics were fantastic. Um, and So their FPS, I actually have, you know, great great expectations for because they know how to make an FPS. I mean, Respawn was started by Vince Zampella. You can see here his name, Vince Zampella. He is the guy who really I mean, Call of Duty is as big as it is, but it started with Vince Zampella. It was one of the creators of Call of Duty Modern Warfare back in the day, where Call of Duty just exploded into what it is today. So there is good people at Respawn stewarding these games. So they know what they're doing. Um my expectations for the FPS game, however, are that it's not going to be a Battlefront game. I think we're likely to see something in the realm of a Titanfall, where you're going to have a good but not too long um FPS single player campaign, and you may have a good and decent multiplayer. Now, I could be wrong. They could put a lot of resources into having a great multiplayer FPS shooter, but Respawn is very good at stories. They are very good at it. which is why it's kind of a shame that Apex Legends is just a free to pay battle royale, and even in that you can see that there's a good story behind it, but they never got to do it. But if you like the combat in Apex Legends and Titanfall 2, we're likely gonna see that combat. I don't know, we'll see people riding on walls, but we're likely to get a good combat system and good gameplay out of the FPS. And then they announced a strategy game via collaboration with Bit Reactor. Um, I don't think it'll be a grand strategy game. I don't think you'll be commanding the legions of the Empire against the minuscule rebellion. I think it'll probably be a squad-based strategy, like an XCOM game. Um, which to me is fine because I think controlling like an like building up an elite rebel squadron to complete missions and stuff in the greater war against the Empire is definitely a game the Star Wars franchise would benefit from, because there is an aspect of that. It's not just the rebellion didn't just engage in big open war because they were a rebellion. They didn't have the manpower. So if you just engage in big open war, you're likely to lose against an opponent that has a million times the resources and manpower than you. So like if you just control a special forces rebellion squad, and you're building and you're recruiting people to the rebellion, and and you're building that up, I think that would, and it's playing smooth like an XCOM game or Gears Tactics. I think that would be very fun. Okay. Now I know what people are. Now there's some other things I want to touch on here real quick. One, EA has been on the decline with a lot of its franchises, but Respawn really flies under the radar because with EA, they don't give Respawn the resources and the marketing to be out front, because Respawn does great work. Two, EA's signature franchises in Madden and Battlefield are complete, utter garbage right now. That you really look at EA and like, are you doing anything positive at all? And number two, we know that their handling of the Star Wars IP has been atrocious since they had the exclusivity license. But since now that's no longer the case, now since some of their big heavy hitters are starting to lose revenue for the company, now they are banking on Star Wars to help fill the gap, in my opinion. And Respawn is the studio that can do it because they have a proven track record. Fallen Order was a great game. I might not have liked the Dark Souls kind of mechanics of it, where you like save and then all the opponents you kill to come back, and so it's like you really just gotta force yourself to play because you're like, I don't want all the stormtroopers that I just sliced and diced to come back. You don't want to go through that effort twice, three times. Um, but it was a great game. It was a great story. I enjoyed it from start to finish. I still play it from time to time. Um, Respawn has enough cachet, I guess, in their deal with EA that they do not have to be as aggressive on microtransactions like the rest of EA's studios, right? So look, they do. Respawn did develop Apex Legends, and that does have microtransactions, but that is the only game in Respawn's library of games that they have developed for EA where you see microtransactions. It wasn't in Titanfall 2 or Titanfall 1, and it wasn't in Fallen Order. We don't get, oh, buy a poncho for this for your character, or buy the you know charge you $75 for a purple lightsaber so you could have a lightsaber like Mace Windu. They didn't do it. Okay, and if you remember when the EA Battlefront debacles, EA came out with their CEO came out with a statement where no one buys single player games anymore, and that was right before Fallen Order dropped, and Fallen Order flew off shelves, rose to the top of the charts. I think outperformed anything EA could have expected, and That's why they're greenlighting this, that Respawn take more herald of Star Wars games for EA because they have proven they know what they're doing. And I hope they keep knowing what they're doing and we get great games out of this. That's all I care about, is that we get great games. Now, on the other hand, there's also a negative behind this that's nothing to do with Respawn, but it has to do with EA's Golden Studio in DICE, and that is that DICE has fallen from grace. Battlefield 2042 is such a mess that I don't think DICE can recover. They're talking about making the game free to play, and I'll probably do it more. But DICE has become a bad studio. They have failed. Star Wars Battlefront 2 on the PC has a glitch where you can't kill anyone at one, and everybody's at one health. And it's been going on for months and they've completely ignored it. Now, they probably completely ignored it because Battlefield 2042 released in such even worse shape that it had to be all hands on deck. But the fact that your signature franchise that put you up there, that made you one of the bigger publishers, and Madden is also on the decline. Like, they may show that Madden and FIFA may still make a lot, but they're losing money. They're losing money because eventually people realize what this is like, it's an abusive relationship. But they invested so much money in Battlefield 2042, and to come up with what happened, they're not gonna recover from it. And I think that's another thing that we hear. Like, I think a lot of people wanted Battlefront 3. Um, Battlefront 2 released very badly, but not because it was unplayable, but because it was filled with microtransactions. But because the sales figures didn't do what EA wanted, EA had relented. DICE had reshaped the game, got rid of the microtransactions, got rid of the pay to win, and they release great content updates, right? The Last Jedi, the Rise of Skywalker, the Capital Supremacy. I still play Capital Supremacy every time I throw on Battlefront 2 because that's the best game mode in my opinion, and I love it, especially since I kind of hate that they walled off all the errors, but I also like it because I love the Clone Wars, man. I love the Clone Wars. And I love playing as clone troopers or battle droids. But the fact that EA is not going to try to make a Battlefront 3 speaks volumes to the state of DICE. And I'm going to cover that in a later video. But let me know what you think. Do you think this is good? Do you think we'll get some good Star Wars games out of this? Do you think EA is honestly gonna let Respawn do what it needs to do and not interfere with its typical microtransaction-y bullshit? And hopefully they release these games in a completed state. Don't be charging $70, $80 for these games and let them be broken, because you're just going to continue to take hits against yourself. And Madden and FIFA are only going to hold you up above water for so long until people start seeing the lack of care to those. I mean, but then again, the people who buy them every year are probably the dumbest gamers on earth. Um, but yeah, so we'll see. I think Respawn, if they're given the leeway they need to make these games, is gonna make are gonna make great Star Wars games. They already proven it with Jedi Fallen Order, and so I'm confident that Respawn is gonna save EA's bacon in terms of the Star Wars license and the community of people who want Star Wars games. So, anyways, let me know what you think in the comments. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And let me know your thoughts in the comments. And I'll catch you guys on the next time.